In my estimation, more misery has been created by reformers than by any other force in human history. Show me someone who says, "Something must be done," and I will show you a head full of vicious intentions that have no other outlet. What we must strive for always is to find the natural flow and go with it. The Reverend Mother Teresa, Conversational Record, BG File, GSXXMAT9. The overcast sky lifted as the son of Gamu climbed, picked up the scents of grass and surrounding forests, extracted and condensed by the morning dampness. Duncan, Idaho stood at a forbidden window inhaling the smells. This morning, Patron had told him, "You are 15 years of age. You must consider yourself a young man. You no longer are a child." "Is it my birthday?" They were in Duncan's sleeping chamber, where Patron had just aroused him with a glass of citrus juice. "I do not know your birthday." "Do golas have birthdays?" Patron remained silent. It was forbidden to speak of golas with the gola. "Shuang Yu says you can't answer that question," Duncan said. Patron spoke with obvious embarrassment. "The Bashar wishes me to tell you that your training class will be delayed this morning. He wishes you to do the leg and knee exercises until you are called." "I did those yesterday." "I merely convey the Bashar's orders." Patron took the empty glass and left Duncan alone. Duncan dressed quickly. They would expect him for breakfast in the commissary. Damn them! He did not need their breakfast. What was the Bashar doing? Why couldn't he start the classes on time? Leg and knee exercises. That was just make work because Teg had some other unexpected duty. Angrily, Duncan took a forbidden route to a forbidden window. Let the damned guards be punished. He found the odors coming through the window, evocative, but he could not place the memories that lurked at the edges of his awareness. He knew there were memories. Duncan found this frightening but magnetic, like walking along the edge of a cliff or openly confronting Shuang Yu with his defiance. He had never walked along the edge of a cliff nor openly confronted Shuang Yu with defiance, but he could imagine such things. Just seeing a film book holophoto of a cliff edge path was enough to make his stomach tighten. As for Shuang Yu, he often imagined angry disobedience and suffered the same physical reaction. Someone else is in my mind, he thought. Not just in his mind, in his body. He could sense other experiences as though he had just awakened, knowing he had dreamed, but unable to recall the dream. This dream stuff called up knowledge that he knew he could not possess. Yet he did possess it. He could name some of the trees he smelled out there, but those names were not in the library's records. This forbidden window was forbidden because it pierced an outer wall of the keep and could be opened. It was often open, as now, for ventilation. The window reached from his room by climbing over a balcony rail and slipping through a storeroom air shaft. He had learned to do this without the slightest disturbance of rail or storeroom or shaft. Quite early, it had been made clear to him that those trained by the Bene Gesserit could read extremely small signs. He could read some of those signs himself, thanks to the teachings of Teg and Lucilla. Standing well back in the shadows of the upper hallway, Duncan focused on rolling slopes of forest climbing to rocky pinnacles. He found the forest compelling. The pinnacles beyond it possessed a magical quality. It was easy to imagine that no human had ever touched that land. How good it would be to lose himself there, to be only his own person without worrying that another person dwelled within him, a stranger there. With a sigh, Duncan turned away and returned to his room along his secret route. Only when he was back in the safety of his room did he allow himself to say that he had done it once more. No one would be punished for this venture. Punishments and pain, which hung like an aura around the places forbidden to him, only made Duncan exercise extreme caution when he broke the rules. He did not like to think of the pain Xuanyu would cause him if she discovered him at a forbidden window. Even the worst pain, though, would not cause him to cry out, he told himself. He had never cried out even at her nastier tricks. She merely stared back at him, hating her but absorbing her lesson. To him, Xuanyu's lesson was direct. Refine his ability to move unobserved, unseen, and unheard, leaving no spoor to betray his message, to betray his passage. In his room, Duncan sat on the edge of his cot and contemplated the blank wall in front of him. Once, when he had stared at that wall, an image had formed there, a young woman with light amber hair and sweetly rounded features. She looked out of the wall at him and smiled. Her lips moved without a sound. Duncan already had learned lip reading, though, and he read the words clearly. Duncan, my sweet Duncan. Was that his mother? He wondered. His real mother? Even golas had real mothers somewhere back there. Lost in the time between the axolotl tanks, there had been a living woman who bore him and loved him. Yes, loved him because he was her child. If that face on the wall was his mother, how had her image found its way there? He could not identify the face, but he wanted it to be his mother. The experience frightened him, but fear did not prevent him from wanting to repeat it. Whoever that young woman was, her fleeting presence tantalized him. The stranger within him knew that young woman. He felt sure of this. Sometimes he wanted to be that stranger, only for an instant, long enough to gather up all those hidden memories. But he feared this desire. He would lose his real self, he thought, if the stranger entered his awareness. Would that be like death? He wondered. Duncan had seen death before he was 6. His guards had repelled intruders, and one of the guards was killed. 4 intruders died as well. Duncan had watched the 5 bodies brought into the keep, flaccid muscles, arms dragging. Some essential thing was gone from them. Nothing remained to call up memories, self-memories or stranger memories. The 5 were taken somewhere deep within the keep. He heard a guard say later that the 4 intruders were loaded with shere. That was his first encounter with the idea of an Ixian probe. An Ixian probe can raid the mind even of a dead person, Gyasa explained. Shere is a drug that protects you from the probe. Your cells will be totally dead before the drug effect is gone. Adroit listening told Duncan the 4 intruders were being probed in other ways as well. These other ways were not explained to him, but he suspected this must be something secret with the Bene Gesserit. He thought of it as another hellish trick of the Reverend Mothers. They must animate the dead and extract information from unwilling flesh. Duncan visualized depersonalized muscles performing at the will of a diabolical observer. And the observer was always Xuanyu. Such images filled Duncan's mind despite every effort by his teachers to dispel foolishness invented by the ignorant. His teachers said these wild stories were valuable only to create fear of the Bene Gesserit among the uninitiated. Duncan refused to believe that he was of the uninitiated. Duncan refused to believe that he was of the initiated. Looking at a Reverend Mother, he always thought, I'm not one of them. Lucilla was most persistent lately. Religion is a source of energy, she said. You must recognize this energy. It can be directed for your own purposes. Their purposes, not mine, he thought. He imagined his own purposes and projected his own images of himself triumphant over the sisterhood, especially over Shuang Yu. Duncan felt that his imaginative projections were a subterranean reality that worked on him from that place where the stranger dwelled. But he learned to nod and give the appearance that he too found such religious credulity amusing. Lucilla recognized the dichotomy in him. She told Shuang Yu, "He thinks mystical forces are to be feared, and if possible, avoided. As long as he persists in this belief, he cannot learn to use our most essential knowledge." They met for what Shuang Yu called a regular assessment session, just the two of them in Shuang Yu's study. The time was shortly after their light supper. The sounds of the keep around them were those of transition, night patrols beginning, off-duty personnel enjoying one of their brief free time periods. Shuang Yu's study had not been completely insulated from such things, a deliberate contrivance of the sisterhood's renovators. The trained senses of a Reverend Mother could detect many things from the sounds around her. Shuang Yu felt more and more at a loss in these assessment sessions. It was increasingly obvious that Lucilla could not be won over to those opposing Terraza. Lucilla was also immune to a Reverend Mother's manipulative subterfuge. Most damnable of all, Lucilla and Teg between them were imparting highly volatile abilities to the gola, dangerous in the extreme. Added to all of her other problems, Shuang Yu nurtured a growing respect for Lucilla. "He thinks we use occult powers to practice our arts," Lucilla said. "How did he arrive at such a peculiar idea?" Shuang Yu felt the disadvantage imposed by this question. Lucilla already knew this had been done to weaken the gola. Lucilla was saying, "Disobedience is a crime against our sisterhood." "If he wants our knowledge, he will surely get it from you," Shuang Yu said. No matter how dangerous, in Shuang Yu's view, this was certainly a truth. "His desire for knowledge is my best lever," Lucilla said, "but we both know that is not enough." There was no reproof in Lucilla's tone, but Shuang Yu felt it nevertheless. "Damn her. She's trying to win me over," Shuang Yu thought. Several responses entered Shuang Yu's mind. "I have not disobeyed my orders. Pah! And a disgusting excuse. The gola has been treated according to the standard Bene Gesserit training practices. Inadequate and untrue. And this gola was not the standard object of education. There were depths in him that could only be matched by a potential Reverend Mother. And that was the problem." "I have made mistakes," Shuang Yu said. That was a double-pronged answer that another Reverend Mother could appreciate. "You made no mistake when you damaged him," Lucilla said. "But I failed to anticipate that another Reverend Mother might expose the flaws in him," Shuang Yu said. "He wants our powers only to escape us," Lucilla said. "He's thinking, someday I'll know as much as they do, and then I'll run away." When Shuang Yu did not respond, Lucilla said, "That was clever. If he runs, we will have to hunt him down and destroy him ourselves." Shuang Yu smiled. "I will not make your mistake," Lucilla said. "I tell you openly what I know you would see anyway. I now understand why Terraza sent an imprinter to one so young." Shuang Yu's smile vanished. "What are you doing?" "I am bonding him to me the way we bond all our acolytes to their teachers. I am treating him with candor and loyalty as one of our own." "But he's male." "So the spice agony will be denied him, but nothing else. He is, I think, responding. And when the time comes for the ultimate stage of imprinting? Xuanyu asked. Yes, that will be delicate. You think it will destroy him. That, of course, was your plan. Lucilla, the Sisterhood is not unanimous in following Terraza's designs for this gola. Certainly you know this. It was Xuanyu's most powerful argument, and the fact that it had been reserved for this moment said much. The fears that they might produce another Kwisatz Haderach were deep-seated, and the dissension of the Bene Gesserit comparably powerful. He is primitive genetic stock and not bred to be a Kwisatz Haderach. But the Tleilaxu have interfered with his genetic inheritance. Yes, at our orders. They have sped up his nerve and muscle responses. Is that all they have done? Xuanyu asked. You've seen the cell studies, Lucilla said. If we could do as much as the Tleilaxu, we would not need them, Xuanyu said. We would have our own axolotl tanks. You think they have hidden something from us, Lucilla said. They had him completely outside our observation for 9 months. I have heard all these arguments, Lucilla said. Xuanyu threw up her hands in a gesture of capitulation. He's all yours then, Reverend Mother, and the consequences are on your head. But you will not remove me from this post, no matter what you report to Chapter House. Remove you? Certainly not. I don't want your faction sending someone unknown to us. There is a limit to the insults I will take from you, Xuanyu said. And there is a limit to how much treachery Terraza will accept, Lucilla said. If we get another Polytreides, or, gods forbid, another tyrant, it will be Terraza's doing, Xuanyu said. Tell her I said so. Lucilla stood. You may as well know that Terraza left entirely at my discretion how much melange I feed this gola. I have already begun increasing his intake of the spice. Xuanyu pounded both fists on her desk. Damn you all! You will destroy us yet!